Hello, what is up? My name is Simon, and today on another action-packed video, we're going to be talking about drum triggering in Superior Drummer 3 by Toontrack. So this is a bit of a follow-up video from my last one. We talked about the drum triggering with Slate Trigger. Today we're looking at how to use the tracker feature in Superior Drummer 3 to achieve some similar results. So without further ado, let's dive in. I'm going to be doing everything inside Reaper here. You can also do the same thing in the standalone version of Superior Drummer 3. For the sake of this example, I'm going to do everything inside Reaper. So I'm just going to open up an instance of Superior Drummer 3 here. I'm going to just load up Metal Machine EasyX kit. We're looking at metal drums. So what we're going to do is first of all go to the tracker tab here. And before we do anything with our MIDI or our drum tracks, the most crucial thing you need to do here is make sure your tempo is set correctly for the song you're working on. So I find this works best if you're working with a song with a fixed tempo or very, very minimal tempo changes, because you have to manually add in the tempo changes for the song inside this tempo map track here. Otherwise, the export is going to be all messed up and won't line up at all with your session. So you can do that if you drop down this arrow here. There's a option to add points. You can make your own tempo map however you like. It's a bit fiddly to do, a bit of a pain, and doesn't always map that well when I drag stuff back in. So I tend to avoid doing this if I need to. I'm just going to undo all this. There's also an option here to import a tempo map from MIDI file, which might work, but yeah, I tend to just avoid it really. So I know I'm going to be working on a song here with the tempo is going to be 160, so I'm just going to double click here and just add in 160, and that should be good for the rest of the song now. Okay, so we need to just add our audio files here, drum tracks, into Superior Drummer. Two ways you can do that. One is click Add, and then browse to the folder you want and add the files in that way. Another way is just dragging and dropping from Explorer in Windows, or I guess Finder in Mac probably will do the same. I'm going to just do that, so I'm just going to drag our kick, snare, and toms into here. There we go. So that is just going to prepare and analyze the files and do some hit point detection, work out some velocities for us and where the MIDI is going to be. So we'll just wait for that to finish. Just wait. Gotta be patient. Okay, actually I know there's no floor tom 2 in this track, so I'm just going to actually remove this one. So I'm going to just drag this little window at the bottom here up a little bit, because this is what we want to be looking at. So what it's done here is it's detected all the transient hit points here, given us some matches for kick sound. It's matched it to sound recognition as kick drum, which is correct. And what we can see here, if I can hold control, use my mouse wheel, I can scroll in, we can see all the hit points here. There's also a little box here we can scroll with the mouse and grab each side to zoom in and out a specific area. We want to make sure that none of the bleed here is triggering any hits. We can just scroll through, make sure that none of the dots or lines appear here for anything that's not a kick drum. one thing I'm going to do, which I'll do on every single track, is just raise up this velocity slider to make sure it's just above all this bleed I can see here, just to make sure that the thing is being triggered that way. Just scan through real quick and it looks like everything is triggering correctly here. Let's take a look at the snare, do the same thing. And straight away we can see that this here is a mistrigger. It's triggering from the bleed, so I'm going to just drag up this slider a bit. Make sure none of the toms are triggering any of the snare hits. We definitely don't want that. This one at the end here is a mistrigger. I'm just going to select this point here and click delete, or you can hit detrigger, both achieve the same result. So let's look at the rack tom. Again, I can see this point here is a mistrigger, so I'll just drag up this slider again. These, you can see these ones look like toms. You can just confirm that it's solo. Change the mix here to the left side, which is 100% source audio. Take off follow host and hit play. That's clearly a tom. This looks like a tom here at the end. So we can select it and click trigger here, which will add it above the line now, so that's going to be added to our MIDI. This looks like the same here as well. This one we also want, so click trigger, and what's added. Let's look at tom 2. Same thing, we're going to just raise the velocity slider here to get rid of some mistriggers. This hasn't really fixed some problems. We've got an issue here where you can see this hit here, that's a tom, that's a tom, that's a tom. There's a couple of hits in between here which are the same velocity, but they're also being triggered, so we've got a few options here. We can do like we did last time, select and hit detrigger or delete. That's going to fix that. The other option we can use is this reduced bleed selector here. We can select the tracks we want to reduce bleed from. So it's sort of like a sidechain detection. And this should also get rid of it. So I think these are snare hits. So we just, we can leave them all selected or just leave the snare selected here. And if we dial this up, it should also detrigger those snares for us too, which is pretty cool. So that looks like everything is triggered correctly now. Finally, floor tom 1. Again, let's just drag the slider up just to get rid of some of the bleed. That looks like a tom, for sure. This one. No issues there. Okay, that's pretty much it. The next thing we have to do is just export all this. Well, actually before that, let's just make sure that the sound recognition is correct for these instruments. So like kick, that's fine, snare. These are all toms here, but we can actually select which one. So if you click on where it says toms, we have an option here, rack tom 1. Make sure that's correct. Rack tom 2, that's correct. This third one here, it says rack tom, but it's actually a floor tom, so let's just change that to floor tom 1 center. That'll make sure that the MIDI's on a separate, the correct lane for the floor tom, at least in Superior Drummer, and a separate lane anyway if you want to edit it later. So now, how do we get this into our DAW? That's pretty easy. We go to the export button here. We can just drag everything in. That's going to put all the MIDI into one file, which we can put on Superior Drummer, and when we play this back, we can do what we like inside Superior Drummer here, and with the mixer we can change any of our drum kits, any of our libraries, you know, all the standard stuff. We have a lot of flexibility. We can go in and edit velocities, make sure that those kicks are all louder. Make sure the snares are just a little bit less. You know, standard kind of stuff you would do with drum programming. We can also export everything as a MIDI file if you want to save that for later. We can also export things individually if you just wanted to trigger a snare, for example. With some of the program, we can just select just the snare and drag that. That's going to give us just the snare track. And we can do what we want with that. So it's up to you what you use your MIDI with, how you want to trigger things, but that's how you export the MIDI from Superior Drummer. Hope that was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.